Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the 210 Movement. Today, we're your hosts, Alex and Andre, and today our guest is.
Jason Wolff.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are
Well, I think,
and what you do.
sure, you guys invited me here, I think, because I'm running for district attorney. I'm running as an independent, which is a little bit unusual. I don't know that anybody's ever run as an independent here in Bexar County or even across the nation. There's been very few that have been successful. I think the most recent one, or at least one that comes to mind, was Jesse Ventura, who was a very famous wrestler who
Yes.
won as governor of Minnesota. But I'm running as an independent, and that's probably why you've got me in this seat, just because I'm running for that position, and it's an important position.
That's right.
You right?
Yeah, that's part of the reason, and we have a few good questions for you today. We are still a very small podcast, but
Yeah.
it's very cool to have you here today, sir.
Well,
So
thanks.
I really do appreciate it.
Look, I don't really want to say no to anybody. What I'm doing is going to take an effort. It's going to take support from a lot of people. And really, I just want people to be informed on who's running. And if they don't like me, don't vote for me. What I don't want to have happen is people showing up to the polls intending to vote for whether it's governor or whoever's on that ticket, and then just going down the row and saying, well, I like that name, or I traditionally vote Democrat, or I traditionally vote Republican. I want them to be informed, even if they're informed enough to where they don't like me. That's fine. I want to be transparent about who I am, and just one of the reasons, or part of the reasons why I feel I am capable in this job is, my own history. I've been in and out of that courthouse for about 23 years. I started out as a prosecutor. I graduated from UT Law, but I'm from San Antonio, seventh generation San Antonian. Went to UT Law, started in 2004. I'd already had a family, and so it took a lot of effort for me to do that at the same time. I'm a UTSA graduate, but ended up graduating summa cum laude from UTSA, graduated with honors while raising a family in UT Law. Wanted to be in a courtroom, didn't want to work for a private firm, even though it was good money. But I wanted to be in a courtroom and be a trial lawyer. And I was really kind of called to the criminal law. Criminal law excited me when I was in law school. It was the best stories. I've got plenty of stories for you guys. But yeah, I was a prosecutor for 6 years, and then I ran for judge at county court at law number 2. And the reason I ran for that was because the judge that had been on the bench for 20 plus years was spending a lot of his time doing weddings in chambers, while the backlog just got huge. And it was the biggest backlog court in county court. He was making over $50,000 a year while at his first job doing his second job. So I would announce ready for trial, and he wouldn't bring in a jury. And so that's why I ran for judge. And in fact, I was lucky enough to win. And I cleaned that court up, and it went from the biggest backlog court to the most efficient run court in just a year and a half. Had 1,600 cases that were set for trial when I took over. After a year and a half, that was down to about 90 cases. You got your trial if you wanted it, and was still kind of voted in the top 10 among all of the judges that were in Bexar County, both for knowledge of the law, showing up on time, actually calling the docket at 9 o'clock when you expected defendants to be there. I was there. Professionalism, temperament. So all of those things I thought were important. 2018, I lost my bench. Bexar County goes like this in waves.
Yeah.
And so many people get swept in and get swept out. Good Democrat judges, good Republican judges on both ends. I went back to the DA's office in 2018, worked with Joe Gonzalez for 4 years, was the first chair. So I tried capital murders, it's a felony first chair. So over the course of my career, I've had over 250 jury trials, and that's me. And now I've been doing defense work for 3 years. So I think those qualifications at least give me an opportunity to sit here with some credibility.
It's safe to say you got a lot of stories, right? Like you said
Oh
before.
yeah, I got lots of stories.
Lots of stories,
for
lot
sure.
of experience.
And scars, by the way, too. God bless our prosecutors for doing what they do.
Yes.
It is a difficult job.
I believe it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You said you had a family member in within the Bexar County, correct? Like that works for Bexar
That
County,
would
correct?
be Nelson Wolff, longtime county judge, previous mayor of San Antonio. Yeah, Nelson's been around.
Now, why do you think he isn't backing you?
Well, because
These
he's part of the
cases.
political machine, guys. We come from a large family. We are a close family. I was at his 85th birthday party here just a few months ago. I didn't really think I was going to be running for this position. Judge Ron Rangel, Democratic judge, had said he was going to run. I think he's great. Thought he would be good. When he said he wasn't going to run, and I saw the crop of candidates that were coming up, and just the disarray that the district attorney's office is in, I really feel like I'm actually being called to do this. I mean, I hope God's plan is my plan, but I know his plan's better than mine. So we'll see. But that's why I jumped in. And when I was considering it, I reached out to my uncle and said, hey, look, I get it. If you can't support me, you're a longtime Democrat, but can you just stay out of this race? Can you just let the voters decide? And his response was, well, no, I'm going to support Trey Martinez Fisher,
Yes.
who I called Trey Opportunity
I do
Fisher.
recall that. Yes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
he since said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with my day job. And, he said, my uncle was like, he's a good friend. And I thought, well, my goodness, I'm family. If anybody would understand, it would say, hey, look, I'm going to stay out of this race. I'm going to let the voters decide. So, no. And then I only had to learn that he was supporting Luz Helena Chapa through another candidate. So it hurts, disappointing. But really, it stands for why I'm running as an independent. I am tired of party labels. I'm tired of what it's doing to our society. It is putting us in camps. It is dividing us rather than bringing us back to the center.
Yes.
It has that effect so personal now on a personal level. And I want to get back to basic law enforcement. I want to make the DA's office strong again. I want to help get crime down. I want us to be able to, if we have any money left over after we've paid our bills, to go out and enjoy that money with somebody we
Yes.
love and who loves us and not be afraid of crime. So if there's ever a time where an independent can win, I think it's now. But he is not supporting me because I think he's just used to being a politician. I think he is used to the power that he feels when it comes to supporting somebody and getting them into position. And it's so transparent at this point, given who his choice was. Luz Helena Chapa, while she was on the Fourth Court of Appeals, she really kind of judged people's papers, and that's what she'll tell everybody. Well, I judged people's papers. She wasn't actually in court. She has never tried a case, which is incredible to me. She's never been an assistant district attorney. This is somebody who does not know what it means to be a prosecutor, would have to learn on the job. There are other good Democratic candidates, and I am the first one to tell you there are ones that have way more knowledge and experience than she does. And I would say, if you don't like me, please consider one of these other individuals, because Luz Helena Chapa does not have what it takes to be a district attorney. And when I tell you there's a political machine, there's absolutely a political machine. I interviewed with the San Antonio Police Officers Association, with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office Association, and I know that these other candidates did as well. The lone Republican is Ashley Foster. She's kind of been out of the game for a long time, but she's an intelligent person. She was a prosecutor for a long time. I know that I hit it out of the park, and I know some of these other candidates did too. Yet next thing you know, both of these associations are supporting Luz Helena Chapa, as I refer to her, given that she is deficient in quality. So that just tells you guys, it tells you that it's not really up to the voters, that the machine wants to put somebody and prop them up and say, well, we hope nobody really pays attention to qualifications. So that was a long answer, but there was a lot
appreciate
there.
those answers.
There's a lot there.
So, Mr. Wolff, if you had to describe San Antonio with one word, what would it be?
That's a fun one. Home. I was born in San Antonio. Like I said, I'm seventh generation. My parents, in about fifth grade, moved us out to the hill country outside of Bernie, a little place called Sister Dale. So I was part city mouse, and then I had to become country mouse and feed cows and chickens and turkeys and wake up at 5:30 a.m. and break the ice from the water troughs, and went to a really small school. But when I did start raising a family, it was here in San Antonio, and that's where I live, is here in San Antonio, in Bexar County.
I like that. Yeah, I think I'm probably, I want to say second generation San Antonian.
Okay.
Because my mother and my father were both born here.
Okay.
But we're hoping for big things.
Well, it's a great city. I
Yes.
love this city.
It is a great city.
It feels, my wife calls it El Rancho, it's huge. It's the seventh largest city in the United
That's
States.
right. Yes, it is.
But it feels much smaller than that. It feels like we are all connected. We all live on the ranch. And I know El Rancho has its different connotations, but my wife is from Guadalajara, Mexico. So,
No, of course.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's teaching me all kinds of words.
My father's family is from Navas and Sabinas, Mexico.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Love Mexico.
What do you enjoy most about San Antonio?
I think I do love what we were just saying, that it feels like a small town. It's surprising how often you run into people that you know or see them, and it feels like a much smaller community for such a large city. And
Yeah.
Bexar County, San Antonio is seventh largest city in the U.S.
Yeah.
Bexar County, we all know how big Bexar County
Mhm.
is. When I would go put up my signs when I ran for judge, I did it myself, and my goodness, that's a lot of driving. So it's large, but it feels connected.
Definitely the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
You feel like when you as it's different in other areas, but for me, I feel like when you go downtown, the culture is definitely there.
It has a mix of cultures for sure. I mean, there's all kinds. You can go to different areas and be in completely. It feels completely different.
Yeah.
But I lived for a while. I lived just off Broadway, very close to downtown,
Okay.
and I really enjoyed that, being right next to Breckenridge Park.
Mhm.
Next to the zoo.
Yes.
Those are the places that I really just loved from my childhood, and I remember. And so when I think about San Antonio, I think about a lot of the places that we go visit too. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, what are 5 virtues that make you successful?
Ooh, well, successful. I guess my dad and my mom were still together. Fortunate that I was raised with a family that's still connected. I myself have gone through a divorce, and I know that can be difficult. It was difficult on me, um, difficult for my kids too, I'm sure. But my dad's influence was very strong and very forthright kind of guy. He worked so hard, and he would, when he did actually, so they had some businesses. We have two
Mhm.
uncles, Nelson, and we have Gary and my
Yes.
dad, and they had Alamo Enterprises, which was a lumber company way back when, and they worked really hard. They started out of the back of a gas station, didn't have a lot of money, and they
Okay.
grew that into about 7 stores across the state of Texas. Sold that, and then this was when the health craze in the 80s was kind of kicking out in California.
Okay.
And so they started a Sun Harvest Farms, which was
Mhm.
a grocery store, but and they were very successful. My dad built a large house on a ranch, but my goodness, I didn't feel like I was privileged in any way. He made us work, and if my friends came over, I knew they were my friends because he put them to work,
Yes.
and they would come back. The ones that came back and visited me, I knew were my good friends. So a really strong work ethic. They're both entrepreneurs, always thinking about creating. So that I think is part of my success. I'm been invested in a company, and I'm always trying something new in addition to being a lawyer. So
Yeah.
I think that I know you asked for 5, but just a strong work ethic, always considering new things, having integrity,
Mhm.
right? Being honest,
Yes.
and holding yourself to your word, and you know, not not doing something for somebody because you think you owe them something when it's
Yes.
not the right thing to do. So I just say, my son is in his mid 20s, and I remember when he was younger, he's like, well, I have to go work for, $12 an hour or
Mhm.
$15 an hour, and how am I ever going to do anything with that? And I say, well, you just focus day by day. Your time will come. If you stay dedicated, you will achieve great things. You just got to take it day by day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, which one of those virtues would you say matters most to you?
Right now,
Mhm.
integrity. Courage is another thing that's important when you're running for DA. You have to have the courage to stick with your convictions. And if you believe this is the right thing to do, then you do it regardless of what the media says, regardless of what somebody else may say about that.
Yeah.
Certainly, you want to surround yourself with similar people, because if you're not thinking right, you want them to be able to tell you, hey, that's a dumb idea.
No, of
Did you
course.
think about this?
Mhm.
But I think integrity and courage is really important aspects, and experience. You got to have the
No,
experience
of course.
to run for this position.
I can agree with those because it's like you don't see a lot of that nowadays. You don't see a lot of honesty or integrity in people nowadays.
They're out there. They're harder to
They
find.
are.
I think a lot of people, on my TikTok feed, which is
Mhm.
called the Wolf, and Wolf
Yes,
is two
I've
F's.
seen that. Yes.
I encourage everybody to check that out if you really want to know who I am. But a lot of people talk about corruption, and it's rare that I see outright corruption in my years as a prosecutor, in my years as
Yes.
a judge. I never saw anybody, hey, or was even offered like, hey, let me give you this money for this outcome. There's been a couple of judges along the way who've
Mhm.
tripped up in that regard, but I think we are apathy, not the same work ethic that maybe many of us do have is going on. A lot of these people are being overworked, so maybe they are not thinking through things the way that they should. A lot of discretion has gone out the window, and I think it's important to bring discretion back to experienced prosecutors, discretion back to our law enforcement who
Yes.
don't want to put themselves out there because they feel they're going to be second guessed or judged. And that's not to say that officers who are not acting within their authority, who are rogue officers, don't deserve to be treated to a higher standard than somebody else.
Yes.
I worked in the white collar crime division. I prosecuted officers before, but by and large, these people are out there putting themselves on the line for us. We go running out, they go running in. So I think they are afraid to use their discretion. Their morale is just down to the floor. And the prosecutors that work at the DA's office right now are overworked. I myself left the DA's office along with over 100 other individuals because we lost faith in our leader, and that's Joe Gonzalez, because he didn't give us the discretion that we earned and that we knew to be the right thing. And I think his concern was, what was the media going to say? What was his party going to say?
Tuning in, Mr. Andre here. I do have a question for you, Mr. Wolff or Judge Wolff.
Either's fine.
Sorry?
Either one is fine.
Either one's fine? Perfect.
Yeah.
So those who may not know your full testimony, what motivated you to pursue the field of criminal justice?
I really enjoyed my criminal law classes. I just thought they were so much fun and they were so much more interesting, and the fact patterns were always different for every case. And I don't know, I think I've always had a sense of justice, for the astrologers, or not astrologers, but I'm a Libra, so I have the scales of justice and my sign. And so, that's kind of out there, but I've always been interested in it. And I wanted to be in court. I wanted to be in trial. And, when I went and worked for a civil firm, when they were just fighting over money, that just doesn't interest me.
Yes.
And so I knew that real things happen inside of a courtroom, and that's where I wanted to be. So that's probably why I pursued it. It's more interesting, and I could be a trial lawyer.
Well, since you have such a strong sense of justice, I did ask this in another video to like random people on the street, but what are your thoughts on the like extremist side of each political party?
Oh, great question. It's really kind of why I am running as independent. I think we have gone so far to the left, so far to the right. There's still the core of our country, which isn't on those extremes. I truly believe that. We have more and more independence now than I think we ever have. I think people are less likely to align themselves with political affiliations. And that's not to say that I haven't voted in both parties. And I think when I did run, I ran as a Republican. You're forced to pick a party when you run and you have to pick a label. I grew up predominantly in a Republican household. My uncle was Democrat. We all talked about politics. We all got along. But judges are supposed to follow the law. So I didn't think it was really right to have that party label.
Yes.
And as a district attorney, I don't think it's important to have that either. You're supposed to enforce the law. So I think being on those extremes are showing more and more why we should come to the middle. I mean, if you have specifics, I can certainly go into specifics, but I think either side is guilty of going too far. And when you get that far removed, you have blinders on. I grew up around horses and racehorses, and blinders are supposed to keep the horse not looking at what's going on to the left or the right, tunnel vision. Yeah. And so much of our community has that. And what just kills me is when somebody says, I know what's in your heart based on your political leanings or your political affiliation. I can tell what's in your heart. And they're making character attacks on individuals rather than policy attacks. If you pay attention, they're character attacks, not attacks on policy or stance or reason. It's, well, you must hate this or you must love this.
That's very.
And that goes on what we discussed earlier in the bar, is that a lot of people.
Why we should have done this in the bar.
I know we should have done this in the bar.
I mean, come on.
But it goes off to say we were discussing that a lot of people don't know how to have a healthy, structured debate anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of debating, it results in a lot of people name calling or insulting people's
Yeah,
character.
yeah,
Just
that's
jumping to
absolutely right.
conclusions.
You know, there are some adages, I guess, when you are running for office, you're never supposed to talk about the opponent's name. You're never supposed to put that out there. I think that's ridiculous
Hmm.
because, oh, we don't want to give them any traction. And maybe all somebody remembers is the name that they hear. I don't believe in that. On this particular topic, one of the candidates is Shannon Locke, and he's got a lot of traction out there. And I'm sure there's going to be other questions
Yep.
about some of his viewpoints. But the first debate that I was at, it was at a church. It was on the east side, and he called me disgusting for some of my things that I put on TikTok. He called Meredith Chacon, who ran as a Republican for DA and now is running as a Democrat,
Mm.
but he called her disgusting for having been on a Republican ticket, which therefore that means anybody who is a Republican is also disgusting.
Mhm.
I don't know how anybody makes those attacks on
Anyone.
Yes.
almost half the
Really.
population or anyone and still says I'm here to serve all of you. It just it's exactly what you were talking about. It goes to personal attacks rather than
Mhm.
attacks on policy.
Now, since your time serving as a Bexar County judge and criminal defense attorney,
Yeah.
you've decided to run for district attorney. What about this season made you say that the time is now?
A little bit what I was saying earlier was Ron Rangel, longtime district court judge, said he was going to run. I think he's great. I think a lot of people thought he should run. For his own personal reasons, he decided not to do that. And when I saw the list of candidates, a lot of the candidates on the Democratic ticket are in-house. They've been part of the DA's office. They've never done defense work. They have not been a judge before. I think my trial experience alone, you have to know how to gauge each case on its own basis. You need to be able to train prosecutors to prepare a case, to work up a case, to see the faults with the case, and to have the strength of character to say this case needs to be dismissed.
Yes.
And everybody needs to remember knowing what happened and proving what happened are two very different things.
Mm.
And thank God our Constitution protects us all and says if the state comes after you, they need to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very, very high burden. And sometimes we have to make judgments about, is this a triable case? Do we spend our resources on this case that we know we can't meet that burden?
Yes.
Not guilty is not the same thing as innocent. Okay. There is true innocence out there, and I've seen it as a defense attorney. But remember, the pronouncement of not guilty is not necessarily innocent. It just means the evidence wasn't sufficient to come back with a guilty finding. So when I saw the list of candidates out there, many of them were within the DA's office. You have Melly Carrion Powers, who has been lifelong prosecutor. She's in charge of the Family Violence Division. I think her heart is in the right place. I like Melly. Melly's been in my home. We've played poker together before over the years. But when I see the stats that are coming out of that office, I go into a courtroom, I go into a family violence court and talk to Judge Lira, who is one of our current judges. And she says, Jason, only about 16% of my cases have been filed, meaning 84% of the individuals who are coming into my court don't even have a file for me to look at. And that's terrible. That is terrible. When I was a judge, maybe 2 or 3 files out of 100 case docket that day would not be ready. And there's just no excuse because justice delayed is justice denied. One of the most famous quotes there is, and it's famous because it's true. There are defendants who may want to take responsibility early on and they're forced to come out from their job and people are still relying on them to pay the bills, or there are people that are innocent that are waiting for their day in court. So I don't know why we would promote from within the DA's office when the current DA's office has been run into the ground and she hasn't shown that she can run it efficiently. So when it promotes from within the DA's office, those candidates to me weren't me.
Yes.
They weren't me. I feel like I have more experience than anybody and I can hit the ground running. And, I've called out the current DA, but I still have, I believe, the backing and the professionalism within the DA's office among the prosecutors that are still there. So I think I can lead these individuals because they know I've been in the trenches. I've been there. So that's why I stepped up, because I'm heartbroken at what goes on in the courthouse. It's just terrible, guys. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's regarding Rosie Speedling Gonzalez too, isn't it? Wasn't
There's
she
a lot
part
to
of
talk there.
She was a part of, she was involved in family violence cases as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's a family violence court judge. She's been around a long time. The first time I met Rosie, I was the prosecutor and she was a defense attorney. And she kind of got me in the hallway and was like, in my face, you should dismiss this case. And I looked at the facts and I said, no, this is a good case. I think your client's guilty. And we went to trial and she lost. And, you know, I lose my bench. And that's what's critical. And that's what's important is you have to have integrity and you have to be polite and you have to be able to argue with somebody and not do character
Exactly.
attacks
Yes.
because you never know where you're going to be.
No,
I
of
can
course.
go from the bench and then I'm a defense attorney or I'm a prosecutor. So she was elected. I'm in her court. We're trying a case and I made an objection and she told me overruled. I'm the judge now in front of the jury. So those kind of comments just completely revealed, you know, that you don't do that. You're supposed to be the most neutral party in the court. You're supposed to be the most patient, the most knowledgeable. And I ended up winning that case because she made an error ruling and wouldn't allow me to tell her, hey, wait, before you make a ruling, let me tell you why you shouldn't. And so that worked out to the benefit of my client. But she has recently been indicted and she's been suspended from the bench without pay. And we'll see what happens with the Judicial Conduct Commission. And you know, somebody just texted me today on my TikTok video saying, "Oh, it's a setup, and they're just going after her, and just so a Republican can be on the bench," which is not how that works. If she were to not win or if she were to be removed, then it's the county commissioners who would appoint a replacement judge. The county commissioners is 4 out of the 5 of those individuals are Democrats. It would be a Democrat that would be appointed to that position, and there's not even a Republican on the ticket. So this isn't about outside and conspiracy theories. This is about her behavior on the bench.
Yep.
She's presumed innocent until proven guilty, but you know, there's a lot coming at her that she needs to account for.
Now, with the current DA, I know there's a lot that you don't agree with.
Yeah, you call one elected official a pussy, and that's all everybody wants to talk about.
That's
For kids at home,
I understand. Yes.
I'll explain it.
No,
Trust
for
me.
sure. What would you, if elected DA, what would you fix or what would you bring to office that this current DA has gotten incorrect?
I think what he's gotten incorrect is he's not supporting his prosecutors in a way that he promised that he would. He professed to all of us when I started working there that I've got your back. I will stand behind you. I trust you. I'll let you use your discretion. And that really wasn't how it played out. A lot of prosecutors, over 140 prosecutors, 100 prosecutors left that office, and they didn't leave to go get more pay somewhere else. I see prosecutors that I used to work with because now I'm a defense attorney and I go to surrounding counties. They are prosecutors in the counties that surround Bexar County.
Yes.
They still live here in San Antonio predominantly. So they left because they became disillusioned like I did. What I would do is those that have the training, those that have integrity, I would trust their discretion. I would give them the freedom and the authority to do what they think is appropriate on a case. I would make sure that the incoming prosecutors get the training that they need. You can walk into a court and you can see a brand new prosecutor by themselves in a misdemeanor court. I would not have known what I was doing when I was brand new. I was making stupid offers or things that I was missing because had I been alone, that would have been a terrible situation. And it's a terrible situation now. You need somebody there that can help guide you, show you how to read a case, how to compare it to the elements. I was in trial against one of these misdemeanor prosecutors and they didn't even have their predicate manual next to them. A predicate manual is kind of like a cheat sheet for lawyers. It's like, oh, what do I have to get in? Oh, a video? Officer, were you at this? You know, I mean, there's questions that you can ask to get that evidence in.
Yes.
They're not even being guided to take your predicate manual with you. Have your indictment or your information out on the table and check off every element. So it's there's a lack of training. So training, I would try to repair the broken relationship with law enforcement right now. I would want to bring in citizens from on the street. Maybe they're among communities or different districts and have an open office, a place where they can come in and instead of sending an email or making a phone call that's not returned or answered, they can give me their input. I think we need more communication among all the players, including Commissioners Court. They need to understand why money should be going towards paying our prosecutors more, funding the DA's office in a higher level, because they hold the purse strings. So those are some of the avenues I would start at. And I want to make it fun again. It's not fun to be a prosecutor anymore. You know, when
It's
I
kind of
started
like
there,
what you said, the
yeah,
political machine, right?
it is, and it's just not fun. It's a difficult job, guys. It's
Yeah.
hard. I mean, I've seen videos and I have images, and I've talked to family members who've lost loved ones, and you have to put a a, a number on somebody's life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There is no number that satisfies that, but you have to be practical, reasonable. You have to have the experience to understand what it is I think a jury may do in this instance. Where do we focus our resources? Where are we spinning our wheels? What are the crap cases? Have the integrity to dismiss them,
Yeah.
and focus on the cases that you can prove, and be there for the victims that you can be there for. And the real victims. There's a lot of abuse when it comes to the justice system. There are a lot of boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses going through divorce that are using the justice system against one another, using it for perhaps immigration purposes to stay in the country. So yeah, focus on what matters.
Now, completely off script of legal proceedings and DA. When you're not wearing the suit, who would you say Jason Wolff is as a person?
I'm kind of a comedian. I think in Saturday Night Live skits, like when I walk around, my first impulse is, what joke would I make? So I kind of say I have joke Tourette's, but yeah, that's who I am. And really, I'm, you know, my kids are grown; they're in their 20s. I'm on my second marriage. I am just so in love with my wife, and so thankful for her. I am there for her, and that's who I want to be there for. She motivates me. And as I said, you know, she's just from Guadalajara, Mexico, and who would know that we would work so well together, and she would open up such a fantastic world for me. My stepdaughter Leah is in Guadalajara now. We are now getting eligible to have her come over and stay, and so I'm hopeful that, you know, she makes that decision. She's with her father in Mexico, but when I'm don't have the suit on, I'm kind of a cut up. Yeah. And you know,
That's always good to hear.
yeah, watch my TikToks and you will completely understand who Jason Wolff is.
The TikTok will be right here.
Hey, look, there it
Right
is.
there.
Oh, hey, I see it. Wow,
That's
cool.
pretty dope.
Now, second part of the question. Actually, different question.
Okay.
Mr. Wolff, would you say that you are a religious person?
Yes, I am a religious person. And I'm glad you asked that. When I ran for judge, I wasn't called to be a judge. I wanted to be a judge. I did want to fix what was going on in that court. I wanted to take care of the backlog. I knew I could do a better job, but I wasn't called by God to do that. If I was, I didn't recognize it at the time. I think I am, the older you get, the more you hear the footsteps. And so every night since I was a kid, I will say my prayers, and I'm thankful for so many things. And I really feel like God is calling me to do this. And it's not easy to say that, because you know there are people out there that will judge you just for saying that, that will say, well, he must be a religious fanatic. It's not at all the case. I don't go around thumping a Bible on Sundays, but I absolutely know that this is a test. This is a test for all of us. And how we perform is going to come back when we are no longer here. And really, I've said this before, we're not Democrats. We're not Republicans. We are human beings.
Yes.
We're human beings. And at our core, we all just want to find somebody to love. We want to be loved. And we want to go throughout our daily lives enjoying that and being safe in our community. And if we could just remember that, you know, never, ever did I ever look at a case as a prosecutor or as a judge or now as a defense attorney and ask myself, is this a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a liberal or a Green Party? Never. It doesn't become relevant. You want to run for office and write laws? Okay, ask those questions. But when a criminal sticks a gun in your face, they don't ask you if you're a Republican or a Democrat. So
I would, you know.
I think God has put me here. I hope my plan is God's plan, but if it's not, I understand enough to know that God's plan is better than mine. and I'm going to win. I want to win. But if I don't, I know it's for his purpose.
And God always has a purpose for us.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's for him to know and for us to find out.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, you've answered that you're a religious person. Do you believe that your beliefs or faith influence your perception of justice?
I would think somehow in the core of you it does. I think I'm guided by a sense of what I believe is right and wrong. And, there are moral interpretations to that. But no, I don't think I look at Psalms or biblical
You don't
chapters.
immediately just open the
No, I
Bible
don't
and
like
just like, hold on,
what would
Judge.
Matthew say about that? I really, as a defense attorney or as a prosecutor, you don't build the planes, you just fly them, right? You don't get to pick your fact pattern. You just have to say, what do these facts mean? Do these facts meet the elements of the crime? Can I prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes.
So religion really shouldn't come into play in that
Mhm.
analysis. But you hope if it does, it's only, is this a person of integrity?
Yes.
And you can have integrity and not be a religious person. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to say that, but I think that's the nutshell answer.
It's okay to speak freely.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
Yeah. No, I'm not. You
Trust.
can tell I'm not.
Trust.
Yeah.
Now for this next question, give you a little context because I know we spoke earlier. You may not know what Sharia law is, but it's recently become like this uprising of Muslims' own form of government. They've actually they don't go through Texas. They don't go through Texas courts or any other state courts for marriage certificates. They go through their own created Sharia law court, um, and they have beliefs such as, oh, if you don't believe in Allah, then we have to slay the infidels. They believe that it's okay to marry a 9-year-old. It's in the Quran. But do you think Sharia law should have any recognition within the U.S. and Texas court legal proceedings? Because also, I know that Governor Greg Abbott had also signed. He recently signed. I think it was a bill stating that Sharia law would be banned in Texas.
Do I think it has a place in the laws of Texas as it currently stands? No. What should have a place in the law are the laws that exist now. If you feel like Sharia law or elements of Sharia law would be benefit society and you think it's important to put those in there, then go to the legislatures, go to your congressmen, go to your senators and have them draft that and put it in a bill. And if it becomes law, as a district attorney, I would enforce the laws that are on the books. I'm not the legislator, right? I'm not the one that writes those laws. The district attorney is the head law enforcement officer for the county. So if there are elements of that you think or anybody thinks should be applied on a day-to-day basis within our courts, then go talk to the people that can make that happen and put it before the people. Let the people vote on it.
Yes, and I only speak upon
Yeah.
that because I've seen the uprising in Irving. There's been a lot of Muslims gathering. It's okay to gather,
Mhm.
but they believe that there is Sharia law predominantly coming out of Irving, Texas. And then there has been a lot of attacks between Muslims and Christians up in Deeron, Michigan as well.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, generally speaking, we are a country of immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
It's what makes America America, that we have this mix of cultures that have come together, but predominantly people have been willing to assimilate into the culture. I think we are reaching a point where people are coming from different areas of the world.
Yes.
They're taking different ideologies from different places, and they expect to be able to treat the same way here in America, the United States, that they would elsewhere, and that's just not how it works. We have. I want people to come here. My wife, we are going through that process. We've been interviewed to determine whether or not our love for each other is real.
Yes.
We've paid all kinds of money. We are doing it the right way. We're now eligible for citizenship. But she loves this country. She loves America. She loves Mexico. I love Mexico too. But you have to assimilate to the country because that's what makes a country a country. We
Yes.
can't just go and say, well, this is the law for me. I know it didn't go through the legislator and it wasn't voted on, and too bad. So it's alarming. It's alarming to see movements like that get traction to the point where it results in violence.
Yeah.
Did you know in Texas, only the restrained party can be charged for violating a protective order, even if the protected party initiated the contact? Can you explain the real reasoning behind that? And do you think that it's fair?
You know, our legislators do a lot of stupid shit that I can't explain the reasoning for, but let me give it a shot.
Sure.
Look, I represent individuals who are charged with violating a protective order, and they are often quite shocked when, the fact pattern is, wait, the protected party showed up at my door with flowers and a bottle of wine. And what do you mean I'm in violation of that protective order? So it's still technically a violation of that protective order. And it can lead to situations where the protected person is taking advantage of that situation. Predominantly, protected individuals are protected for a reason and deserve to be protected. And I'm not saying that this isn't a good, viable tool that's necessary along the way while we're still trying to figure out if the person that's accused is actually guilty of the crime for which they have been accused of. Many times you have a violence case, family violence case, or dating violence that takes place, and somebody's charged with assault or assault choking, and that protective order is concurrent with that, and it often happens quicker and faster than that. But your question is also, should the defendant, I guess, in this case, or the respondent, be protected in some way? And how would that work? I guess they should have a app where they both swipe right. I don't know.
Kind of like a Tinder.
Yeah, like,
If we
protected
match,
order, Tinder, like, we're on a timeout.
If we match, are we breaking our restraining order?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we both agree to put a pause for this amount of time. What's your thoughts behind that question? What is it that concerns you?
Well, what concerns me, sorry, let's go back to it. I think that, well, do you think it's fair?
Do I think it's fair that somebody who's charged with violating that protective order, when the protected party comes over and knocks on the door with a bottle of wine?
Yeah.
No, it's not fair. It's not fair. And had somebody in my office today on that very same topic, and really, the protected party has engaged in behavior like stalking, pretty much.
Yes.
And this isn't the only instance. I'm sure it happens in a lot of instances, a lot of cases. And look, it really goes back to assault cases where misdemeanor assault cases, really the only thing that's required is pain. We're not talking broken bones, disfigurement, bleeding, that kind of stuff. It's pain. And love is great, but boy, doesn't love get situations where two people who may have been drinking get pissed off at one another, and then they wake up the next day and they say, that really wasn't that big of a deal. You didn't break my nose. Yes, you did this and it hurt. And I'm not trying to diminish these types of cases, but the reality is a lot of these individuals, they don't want to pursue this. The cops will show up the night of or the day of, and both parties will say, "What are you doing here? We were just arguing, and yes, I kind of shoved her out of the way, or she shoved me out of the way." But they will arrest, and I don't think they have the discretion to make a decision, even though you'll see them go and they'll talk and they're like, "I don't know," because let's not forget, there's such thing called mutual combat in the law, right? We make money on this, and the Super Bowl was mutual combat.
Isn't it when both parties agree to
Essentially,
mutual combat?
you and I say, you know what, let's go, man. Let's go step outside, right? And you pop me in the nose and you take me out. I can't go call the cops and say it was an assault. So granted, it's not the same kind of thing where we get to sign contracts and make money like football players do, but there is such thing as mutual combat. And even when the officers are aware of that, they don't have the discretion to walk away when we should be given that discretion. And there are so many cases where the complainant says to the DA's office, "I don't want to pursue this. It either did not happen or, I was excited, I was pissed off, and I made some stuff up, or if it did happen, we are good. We have a family. We don't need to be taking time out of our jobs. We're going to lose our jobs. Go away. The DA's office waits until the very last second, until the defense attorney says, go to trial. I want my trial. I want my trial. And then they offer you, well, what about pretrial diversion? And then you're like, thank you, but no. And then they hand you the dismissal. Why are they hanging on to these cases for a year and a half, for 2 years? Cases that should be, you know what I would do? Okay, you say it didn't happen, or you say it did happen and you want to move on with your life, come on in. Here's this affidavit, sign right here. And if it says later on you should have gotten away and you end up hurt or seriously hurt, that's on you. That is not on the taxpayers. It's not on the district attorney's office to make your love life decisions for you. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about truly bad people, and predominantly it's men that engage in this behavior, but women do too. They just don't get arrested for it most of the time. So when we're in those situations where it's a misdemeanor, we don't have somebody with a history of violence, we're not worried about them going out and presenting a danger to anybody else, then get rid of the crap cases, the cases that the prosecutors can't prove, and rely on the ones where women and men are really, truly in danger, and focus your resources on the people that need to go to prison, that need to go to jail.
Yes.
Yeah. Big shout out to Alex for that question.
I hope you at least got the answer you were looking for, or at least got enough to make a decision.
What is your current stance on the rise of student walkouts that have taken place here in San Antonio?
I'm mixed feelings on that. I support freedom of thought, freedom of expression. I like that students are getting engaged at younger ages on political topics, on things that affect daily lives. What I'm not sure I support is letting them do it on the time where they should be sitting in school, where they should be learning, where they should be. You want to have a function together in the school and keep them there and have some educational component to it, or some thought or some debate among the students. Fine, but I think in situations like that, there are a lot of students that may not be on board with what the majority is thinking at that time, but they feel like, gosh, this isn't the best. I don't feel comfortable expressing an alternative opinion. If we're going to keep religion out of the schools, which so many people are, why are we letting politics invade our schools? There is a healthy way to teach politics and to teach the inner workings of what that machine is, the process of a law. From my age, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill, right? That's such an old reference, you guys. I'll have to show you that, but yeah, we need to. Civics is important, how politics works, but I would be leery of letting walkouts take place. Look, you can express yourself however you want, but I get really concerned when I see young kids walking around with signs that say "fuck" on it. I don't care what comes after that. And when our educators are letting students walk out of class and carry signs that say "fuck" on it,
it's like
spelled wrong too, by the way.
The school's letting them be put in danger.
I think that's true. And it's a volatile time right now. I am completely on board with people who say, I do not like the way that ICE is enforcing the law. That is relevant conversation, a relevant topic. I think each case stands on its own. The loss of life is tragic on any instance. But as somebody who's running for chief law enforcement, I support law enforcement. If you don't like that answer, then you want to elect somebody that's going to be selective about the laws they enforce. That's your prerogative. Look, we have Shannon Locke, who is getting a lot of traction and who is saying that he is going to investigate the governor. He's going to investigate Trump. He's going to investigate ICE. He is misplaced in that the DA's office is an enforcement entity. It is not an investigatory agency. DAs enforce the laws that are brought to them by law enforcement officers who have done their own investigation, who gather the facts sufficient to present it to the DA's office, and the DA can make the decision, do I present this to a grand jury at the state level? These are state courts. These judges have state jurisdiction. It's just grandstanding, in my opinion, when he says, I'm going to investigate ICE officers. And he wants to say, well, 11 other prosecutorial offices throughout the United States are supporting me in that approach. There are thousands of DA's office in the United States, thousands. What percentage of thousands is 11? I think he should look at himself and say, okay, I know that I'm just grandstanding because this is a big topic with people, and I'm doing this to get votes rather than being honest with the voters. And if he were to thread the needle, and remember, you officers that are acting in their official capacity, this is federal law. And if you're acting in your official capacity, that is for a federal court to decide. That's not to say if a mailman is driving drunk on the streets of Bexar County and hammered when he's putting mail in there, then yes, you can go after him in our courts for driving while intoxicated. But if you are a federal law enforcement entity and you're acting in your official capacity, and if you go beyond that and you do commit a crime, the supremacy clause takes place and says this is going to be handled in federal court. Not to mention, he is expecting to take the investigators that are in the DA's office, whose their job is to focus on the cases that have been filed in the office, to supplement that investigation, to ask, okay, well, we need whose car was this registered to, so that we can prove it was the murderer that was driving, or have a piece of evidence that it was the murderer that car was driving that car, or we need to supplement this area. And so those resources would be diverted for a goose chase. And if you do catch that goose is going to end up in federal court. So it's grandstanding. And it just is so frustrating to me. And for him to additionally sit out there and call, anybody that's been on a Republican ticket disgusting, to call me disgusting for saying that I don't care if you've violated our laws, no matter whether it's an immigration law or a state law or federal law, if you violated those laws, don't be so surprised when somebody comes and wakes you up and takes you and holds you accountable for that. So this is not me saying I support the loss of life. It's ridiculous to say that. This is me saying I support law enforcement because we are a country of laws. And if we start picking and choosing which laws to enforce, or saying this whole entity in and of itself needs to go away, who's going to take that place? Who's going to be the ones that enforce the laws that are on our books? So I really hope people pay attention to this. And if you disagree with me, or if you disagree with the way that ICE is enforcing the laws, God bless you. I do too in many instances. Peaceably protest. Getting in law enforcement officers, whether they are ICE or they San Antonio PD or their Bexar County Sheriff's Officer, getting in their face and blowing whistles to the point where their eardrums are going to explode, spitting on them, that's a crime in and of itself. And interfering with them, and trying to take custody of somebody, that is also interference with the duties of law enforcement. That is also a crime, guys.
Yes. So
a lot of people are forgetting that many of these protesters, they're not peaceably protesting. They are committing crimes along the way. So it's a huge topic, but I want people to remember that when it comes to being a district attorney, it's a distraction for the job that the district attorney does here in Bexar County.
I couldn't agree more. You literally just answered the follow-up question I was going to ask, which is like,
Good.
this is like with people saying that, oh, this is my First Amendment right. I have the right to protest. I have the right to free speech, but then they impede on a federal investigation or a federal.
They do. They're very simple elements. Interference with the duties of a public servant. If my buddy's getting arrested and he's DWI and I want to step in any way and use force or impede that, I don't even have to use force. If I continue to get in the way of law enforcement, that's a misdemeanor. That's a crime.
Yes,
it is, whether you like it or not. That is not the time to fight what you believe is improper or over-exercise of power. The time to fight that is in a courtroom. That's when you do it.
Yes.
It only leads to bad consequences. It leads to worse consequences. And as another note to that, resisting arrest. Somebody can be charged with resisting arrest, and the officer does not have to be right in that person committed the crime that the officer thinks that person committed the crime. Okay? Right? I get a news bulletin that somebody was just shot at a bank robbery and they're wearing this description, and they go running down the street, and I see a guy that's wearing the same outfit, and I go to detain or arrest. I go to detain. now is not the time to resist and push back, because the law says, look, we don't want people to be using force against our officers. That's not the time and place to figure that out. It only leads to bad consequences. Fight that out in court, right?
Yes.
We've all heard, you can't beat the ride, but you can beat the rat. But
Exactly.
the law codifies that. So peaceable protest, absolutely. You want to hold a sign that says "fuck ICE"? Go for it. Do it. Put
Just make sure
yourself
you spell
out
it
there.
right.
Try to spell it right.
Please.
I mean, try to spell it right, but
And know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
know what you're getting into. Yeah, and for sure, the First Amendment is powerful. The freedom of assembly is powerful. God bless those rights that we have, but
Yes.
you don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded movie theater when there's no fire.
Yeah. Facts.
Yeah, facts.
All right. Here's another good one. What does justice mean to you, not legally, but morally?
Oof. I've said this before. Justice means something different to everybody. There is no black and white definition of justice that you can go to in the penal code. It
I like
does not
that.
exist. Justice is doing what you think is the right thing to do as applied to the facts and the law. And sometimes, even when you have the facts and the law, and those say this could be a conviction, sometimes justice is doing something other than getting that conviction. Sometimes it's, this kid has made a mistake. I don't want to foreclose this kid's future. Let me find an alternative way to make sure that this kid has been scared, or this person is never going to do this again. Let's get some retribution for society, whether that's community service hours or a fine or something. But justice can mean many times. Justice can mean a dismissal or an alternative outcome rather than a conviction. So as a prosecutor, you don't take an oath to seek convictions. You take an oath to seek justice, and it's an ethereal term. It is an ethereal term. Yeah.
What changes would people start to notice within the first 6 months of your term?
I'd be parking closer to the courthouse. No, I'm just kidding. Day one, I promise to park closer to the courthouse. I think hopefully within the first 6 months, that's enough time to start really attacking some of the backlog. And a lot of that is going to be having the strength and the courage to recognize the cases that you can be successful in, and the ones that you can't, and dismissing the ones that you can't be successful in. Actually, most of the time, victims so some of my most rewarding times were getting justice for victims, right? My first murder case that I won was a very interesting case, and that was a very rewarding time for me. Another equally rewarding time was where this young black college student was charged with evading in a vehicle and assault on a police officer, and the facts were just ridiculous, and I needed some more time to look at it. And she was willing. She was a nursing student. She was about to take a plea for 5 years deferred. I just came into the court as a prosecutor, and it didn't feel right. Interviewed the police officer, and he was just racist, and he went way too far, and it didn't meet the facts, and I dismissed that case. There was another case actually where Shannon Locke indicted a black home builder, and the complainant was a Bexar County Sheriff's officer, and he managed to get that case into the DA's office, and Shannon indicted this guy, and it was just a mess. It was a mess. The box was documents everywhere, and he was indicted with a first-degree felony misapplication of several $100,000. When I did the work and I brought in the bank and said, look, this is what the defendant's charged of, the bank said, no, that's not what happened. It was actually the Bexar County Sheriff's officer who misapplied the money, and the money went elsewhere. It wasn't this guy. And I went and told my supervisor, I'm dismissing the case. And he shut the door and he says, who the fuck do you think you are? You're not the DA. You are not the DA. And I told him, I said, I took an oath to do justice, and this man is innocent, and I'm dismissing the case. And I almost lost my job over it. So I want prosecutors within the first 6 months to know that if they're acting with integrity, that if they've done their homework, that they know that they can dismiss it. And I will stand next to them, and I don't care what the media says. I will stand by the decisions of thoughtful, experienced, educated prosecutors. That was a long answer, but I I hope
It was a
hope
really good
about it.
answer.
Well, thanks. Those were important cases to me, and
For the backlog, is
yeah.
that from would you say like people just being complacent and shoving them on the back of the shelf, or would you say it's from also COVID when everything was closed?
Good answer. So I was still at the DA's office when COVID occurred, and when we had jurors back the first time, because we shut down again shortly thereafter, we
Yes, I
came
remember.
back. I had a judge who didn't care about COVID,
Yes.
who was bringing jury panels into the court every day. She was taking other judges' jury panels that were assigned because those judges were still not wanting to have any part of COVID, and so they didn't want to try cases. So in a matter of 2 months, within my one court that I was in, I was the felony first chair, we cleared 1,600 cases, 1,200 cases, plea bargains, trials, and I have no regrets about how I handled any of those cases. So you can clear backlog. If you have a judge that's willing to work hard and you have prosecutors that can work hard, you can clear a lot of cases, I know from firsthand experience. And when we did come back from COVID, I was still at that office and we helped pick up the slack for the intake division. And we indicted a lot of cases, even though we were also having to try cases as the trial division. So I don't know where this backlog is coming from, other than the fact that the DA's office has been devastated by prosecutors leaving. You used to take years before you could ever become a first chair because people stayed there. They
Yes.
loved their job. So many people have left. He's refilled a lot of these vacancies lately, but there is still a shortage in the DA's office. So a lot of that backlog comes from prosecutors who are not lazy, but they're just overworked. They're overworked. The victims advocates who are there, that they are overworked. There's not enough of them. You shouldn't be a victim. You shouldn't have a son who was murdered and find out that your case was dismissed when watching the news because the prosecutor's office didn't give you a phone call and tell you, hey, we screwed up, we didn't file these motions, or even if we didn't screw it up, the judge denied our motion, granted a motion to suppress. You shouldn't be finding that out on the news.
Yes.
So these victims advocates are overworked. We need to hire more of those. They need to be paid well. And a lot of this relies on our commissioner's court. Our commissioners need to stop funding bullshit programs just because a particular judge wants to be this kind of court or this kind of court. You have general jurisdiction. You have enough of programs in place, enough drug rehabilitation centers, theft courses to handle the work that's needed for defendants without propping up a court and asking commissioners court for another $200,000, $300,000 a year or matching state grants. Let's take that money and apply it to the boots on the ground. Let's stop giving fluff to these. Not all these programs I'm saying are fluff, but so much of them you can do without additional funding. You can just do the work. Do the work.
To anyone who hears this interview, what reason?
We hope it's a lot.
A lot of views, a lot of listeners, a lot of audience.
Come on, repost.
What reason or reasons would you give them to choose you on election day?
Okay, because I have the most experience, because I've been there and I've done that. I think I have the support of the prosecutors that are already there. I think I have the connections to bring prosecutors back. I've been a judge for 8 years. I was a prosecutor for a total of 10 years. I've had a defense attorney now for 3 years. I've tried everything from misdemeanors to capital murder life cases. During the course of my career, I've had over 250 jury trials. I know what it's like to be in that office. I know what it's like to be demoralized with the way that it's being run. It's not fun to be a prosecutor there anymore. It is a difficult job, but you can still have fun while you're doing it. You can still give these prosecutors opportunities to have some kind of relief. And, don't you want a DA with a sense of humor? I mean, I would like to, if I'm going to work for somebody, I want to work for somebody that has a sense of humor. I have a record of clearing a backlog. When I took over the bench in County Court 2, it was the biggest backlog court in the county by over 1,000 cases. There was one guy that was charged with reckless driving. He asked for his jury trial. That case had been pending for 10 years. He was in high school when he picked up the charge. He'd since gotten married, graduated college, and had 2 kids and was still waiting for his day in trial. So I cleaned that court up in a year and a half by working hard, showing up on time, knowing the law. Not once were any of my rulings overturned on appeal. I also did civil matters. The DA's office handles civil matters as well. So I just think my breadth of experience is far and above anybody that's running right now. 3 of the prosecutors are within the DA's office. I like Oscar Salinas. I think he's great. He's got some good experience, but I just feel like I have more experience. I think I have more to bring to the table. Meredith Chacon has got a lot of experience too. And I'm not afraid of telling people who else I think has some experience, but I myself feel like I have more experience. So promoting from within, I don't think is a good idea. And when you look at Shannon Locke, he's just called pretty much half of Bexar County disgusting in his remarks. And he's grandstanding when he's promising people he's going to investigate the president. Give me a break. Who buys that shit?
At the county level?
Yes. And Luz Elena Chapa, watch her debates. Watch her debates. They are horrendous. She raised her right hand and has professed, I'm not the world's best debater. It's terrible, guys. And to never have tried a case. Do you want a district attorney that has never tried a case? How are you going to instill confidence? How are you going to get your team to follow you, to believe in you when you haven't been in the trenches like they have? And for her to say, well, it's just an administrative job. Bullshit. That's ridiculous. So I just feel like I have been called to do this. I feel like I can hit the ground running, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time to turn that ship around, but I think I can do it. So what I want to make clear to everybody, if you believe in me, if you want to support me, running as an independent means I can't just write a check like the Republican or the Democrats can and be on the ticket. If you like what you hear, what I'm asking you is you can't vote in the primaries that are coming up in March. You can't vote in them. If you don't vote in them after they are over, I need 500 signatures from people that did not vote in the primaries. Once I get those 500 signatures, I will be on the November general election ballot. So if you want to support me, I ask you to wait for Wolff.
Go support Wolff.
A huevo.
A huevo, vato. All
We want
right.
to thank you
Yeah.
for giving us your time. We know you had the debate tonight.
Yeah.
I know in our first initial conversation, I did reach out and ask you for your size. Andre, you want to go ahead and give me the bag?
Yes.
It's the first prototype of our first merch shirt.
Yes. Awesome. Let's check it out. Oh, yeah. That is super cool.
And then on the back, we have our mission statement.
Let me see. Builds disciplined, self-reliant leaders through knowledge, action, brother, teaching, business, finance. I love that, guys. Listen, I'm here because I admire what you guys are doing. I admire people getting out there, making things happen. You got to make shit happen in this world.
Exactly.
You can't just sit back and say, woe is me. Why isn't anything going on in my life? You got to make it happen. So God bless you guys for that.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you so
gift.
much.
Yeah.
You're wondering if we